We've already got a Paris climate deal, so why are we still here? So the Paris deal was reached in 2015 and agreed to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees with an additional target of keeping it under just 1.5 degrees. Now, countries from all over the world pledged on how they would cut their own emissions, but what the Paris deal didn't have was a set of rules, and that's what people are here in Katowice trying to work out, what the Paris rulebook should be.
Well, because when you negotiate like an agreement, like the Paris Agreement, as any other agreement, it is kind of broad, and then you negotiate the bits and pieces, after the agreement, the big agreement is agreed.
But is there a chance that we could leave Katowice and still not have a finalized rulebook for Paris?
Well, the rule book is really important, but I think that there is something that might come into the way, which is the difference that we have in terms of capacity of developed countries and developing countries. So maybe that could be a stone, in coming to an agreement in the rule book.
You can see the disagreements between countries by looking at the draft text of the Paris rulebook. So before Katowice, there were some 3,000 square brackets in the draft text. That's places where countries are explicitly disagreeing with each other. Well, it's been whittled down hugely, but there's still several hundred places where countries are disagreeing with each other. So with just a few days left, what is the rulebook actually covering? And what are the main sticking points?
So it covers quite a few different areas. The main ones being debated here are things like how countries should report on progress so far on their climate pledges, how a global stocktake of progress so far on these climate pledges should sort of work, and then things like climate finance from developed to developing countries.
So how is progress going so far on actually reaching a rulebook?
Well, I think it's important to understand that the Paris Agreement is quite a short document, and the rulebook was, before this conference, still a massive document, in fact several documents. There's definitely been some progress in cutting down some of these options, but a lot of the main political options still seem to be on the table.
So what's the best case scenario we can hope for the rulebook coming out of Katowice COP24?
Well, I think firstly that it's finished would be the best case scenario, because it looks like some areas might not quite be completed, and it really should have been finished by the end of this year. I think the most important thing for the rulebook is that it's a strong rulebook that everybody agrees on, everyone's happy with, to sort of put the Paris Agreement into practice from now on.
But here's the thing, even if everything goes to plan in Katowice, we get the best possible version of the Paris rulebook that we could hope for, we still haven't solved climate change. In order to really tackle global warming, global emissions need to start falling and falling fast. In order to limit global warming in such a way that it protects the most vulnerable parts of the world, global emissions need to fall to zero by about the middle of the century. Okay, so where are we in 2018? Well, in 2018, global emissions went up. They went up by roughly the amount you'd expect them to go up if we didn't even know that climate change was a thing. Okay, so regardless of what happens here, we still have a hell of a lot of work left to do. But for me, it's the end of my journey to COP, and I'm heading back to London.